ready as to make every moment count. In his name, amen.
Would you please stand? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now our Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you.
Thank you, trustees. We will move on to the superintendent's report, and I will turn it over now to Dr. Smith.
All right, thank you, Madam President. Good evening, board members. Good evening, those that are in the audience. I have the following items that I want to report on this evening. First, want to just give a report on the first day and weeks of school. We are now starting our third week of school, and so the first 2 weeks overall, we've had a great opening to the school year. One of the things that I wanted to highlight is our enrollment numbers. You'll be hearing later on in the board meeting what those enrollment numbers are, but we have been doing a really good job with enrollment. We are well over our projected enrollment, and so when we look at our elementary schools, the majority of our elementary schools are exceeding what they were projected to be. And so those are really good numbers for us. Our intermediate schools are right now sitting at 85 to 90% of their projected enrollment. And the majority of our middle schools have exceeded their projections. And Duncanville High School has preceded its projections as well with, as of last Friday, they were listing at 4,629 students. Just a disclaimer for those that are watching or will watch the board meeting, these numbers change daily, so what I'm providing this evening could very well be different on tomorrow as these numbers change daily. But overall, I wanted the board to know that our enrollment is really strong. We were wondering what our enrollment would be like coming into the summer, coming off of COVID, and we're really pleased at this point how our numbers are trending. In terms of different challenges that we faced at the first couple of weeks of school, as you might imagine, with students being out of school for the last year and a half, we definitely had some logistic challenges that we had to work through. We did experience some software issues with bus routes. So it took us a few days to try to get that calibrated and get students settled on the routes that they were scheduled to be on. And then in on some of the campuses, students just not knowing where to go, getting a feel for the building and the layout, in particular at the high school. But I had an opportunity to visit the overwhelming majority of our campuses. And by the end of that first week and definitely into the second week, things started to really smooth out, and so I was really pleased to see that. On the first day of school, myself and fellow board members, we started our day at the bus transportation facility, and we greeted bus drivers and took photos and let them know how much we appreciated them on the first day and just really got them off to a good start. And then I proceeded to the high school, and we had a live interview with NBC5, the morning show, there at the high school, really highlighting all the things that we were doing as we were getting started to the school year. We put together a very brief video highlighting the first day of school, and I want to share that with you at this point. Today is the very first day of school. We are so excited to welcome all of our students back face to face. We are ready to serve you. We are ready to make sure that this is an awesome day for you. Welcome back, DeVille Day 1. Today was an absolutely awesome first day of school. It was so great to see our students, our parents, our teachers, all of the smiling faces, and all the positive energy centered around the first day of school. We are truly off to a great start. This is going to be an excellent school year. We're ready to do what we do best, and that's serve our students and prepare you for a bright future. We're off to a great start. DVille, day one. So thank you. We had a great first day, and we'll continue to build on that momentum. The next item that I have for you, board, is our face mask survey. Obviously, face masks have received a lot of attention in the news lately, and so all of us are aware of what the current status is. There is a back and forth now between Judge Jenkins and the governor's office and the Attorney General Paxton. And so we've had a couple of rulings. The Texas Supreme Court, on one hand, has backed Governor Abbott, and Judge Jenkins has put forth a temporary restraining order, which now puts mandating masks back in play again. And so, it's likely that things will continue to move pretty quickly through the courts, and it really is putting school districts in a very difficult situation. Prior to this occurring, of course, we started school before most districts in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And so we already were ahead of the curve, and we partner with several other school districts to provide the mask mandate. And prior to that, I wanted to get feedback from our staff and from our community, and so wanted to share those results. When we were preparing to start school, we wanted to know what our parents and what our staff thought, and of course, for those that responded, 93% of our parents, they supported a mask mandate for students and staff, and then 80% of our staff, they supported a mask mandate. So it was pretty overwhelming in terms of the Duncanville community supporting masks. And so, at a time when our COVID rates are going up in the area, at a time when our COVID rates are indeed going up back in our schools, as of last Friday, we had about 100 cases at the high school alone. And so those first 2 weeks, we really saw a spike. So we were really getting ahead of the curve, so to speak, to put this extra layer of protection in place. And it was indeed supported by the overwhelming majority of our stakeholders. And then, the court system started to make its presence known, and there was a lot of back and forth going on. So, where we are at this point, we expect another ruling to come down pretty quickly through the Texas Supreme Court, and we're going to continue to monitor, continue to make sure we're doing all the things that we know to do to keep everyone safe and our Duncanville family. And we're going to, to the best of our ability, not be handcuffed by what's going on politically. As we transition to the next slide, I wanted to take this opportunity just to report again on all the things that we are doing within our control to keep our staff and our students safe. We're continuing to promote face masks and expecting everyone to wear face masks, and wanting those individuals who may feel differently about that, just to think about the safety and the well-being of all. Our schools will continually be routinely sanitized and disinfected, all the major areas. We've got enough PPE to last us for a really long time. So I feel confident that we're going to be able to provide our staff and our students with what they need. Of course, our handheld e-misters will still be available for our staff and teachers this year, so that as they need to, or as they feel the need to, they have the ability to disinfect and sanitize their classrooms. We will continue to promote routine hand washing, the face shields, the desk shields, our school buses, all of those will be sanitized each day. And where we can, we'll continue to social distance, whether it be 3 feet or 6 feet, and where it's just impossible to do that because that is a challenge for our schools, we're being mindful of how we congregate students and staff. and making sure we capitalize on any opportunities to keep those numbers small. And you'll hear later on in our report this evening the work that we're doing with our self-reporting of positive cases. We'll continue to do that. We'll continue to provide feedback to those students and parents who have been exposed. And then we want to continue to provide support for our staff and our stakeholders. So the rapid COVID testing is still available. Our nurses have been trained here in Duncanville, and they are able to provide that. We've already had 2 vaccination clinics, and we are scheduling more here on site in the district. And so really just trying to do everything that we can to be proactive to take care of our stakeholders. And so despite what's going on in the court system and despite the back and forth that we know we're probably going to be dealing with in the next couple of days or so, we're going to be proactive in Duncanville and control the things that we can control so that we can take care of our staff and take care of our students. And more details to come on that in an agenda item later on this evening. And then the last thing I have is just to report that so proud of our board and the support that you provide for me, the support that you provide for the district, your ability to be able to really function and work as a team and to focus on what your role is in supporting me in the district. It really sets you apart. That's not easy work, and it's not easy to be able to pull together as a team, especially in such contentious times that we're in now. So you are very deserving. And so we knew a few weeks ago that we were in the running to be a top 5 finalist for the State Honor Board, and so it has been confirmed. You are indeed a part of the top 5, along with Aledo ISD, Hayes ISD, Mission ISD, and Tomball ISD. And so in the upcoming weeks, later in September, there'll be an interview with the TASA TASB Convention Group in Dallas. And so as a top 5 honor board, we will be recognized in the state, and then we'll go through a competition interview process, and hopefully we will come out victorious as the top board in the state of Texas. So really proud of governance is not easy, as you know, but you do it well, and you're recognized across the state for the work that you do. And so that concludes my superintendent's report this evening, Madam President.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. We will now move to recognitions. I will turn the meeting over to Tiara Richard.
Good evening, Madam President, Board of Trustees, Dr. Smith. This week or this month, I come before you just to sort of prepare you for the return of Made with Pride in Duncanville. So next month, we'll be back up here with our students, staff, and teacher who've been selected as our Made with Pride in Duncanville honorees each month. So we are collecting nominations now. We've already received quite a few. We got time to take some more. So if anyone has any nominations, please submit those online, and we will gladly consider the best that we have here in the district for those monthly honors. And every month we said we were going to come before you and share some of the donation items that have been submitted to the district. Again, any donation items that are extremely large amounts, they will be brought in person, but every dollar matters. Every time someone's willing to give freely and give for our students and our families, we want to make sure that we are recognizing them for those donations. And so up first, we have Sadalco Construction Services. You'll recognize the name Sadalco because they have done work on the Duncanville ISD Police Station and are currently working on the Teaching and Learning Center, which is the former Acton facility. And they donated 100 backpacks to the Counseling and Social Workers Department that were filled with supplies, school supplies, tissues, hand sanitizer, and that is valued at about $2,750. That's not a small penny. And so we're really grateful and thankful for them being so generous and giving to our kids. And up next we have another donation. This one is a personal one. Miss Carmisha McDowell, I actually called her just to sort of confirm her donation. She was on Nextdoor, the app, the neighborhood app, and she saw a post by one of our social workers mentioning the need for some young boys' clothes. And that post, she responded. And so she has 2 sons who are here in the district, and she says she just couldn't imagine a student going without. And so she brought some boys' clothes in. She also went to the grocery store and bought some food. some bottled water, canned goods, and some other items to donate, knowing that there was a specific need here in the district. And so those valued in total about $520 worth of giving. And so again, whenever we mention that there's a need, our community responds, and this is a great example of that. And then the last donation we have is a longtime partner and supporter of our schools, First Presbyterian Church of Duncanville. They always come through anytime there is a need out there, and that is led by Reverend Pastor Ginger Hertenstein. She and her church donated food, clothing, and school supplies valued at approximately $600. Again, grateful for the generosity of our community and grateful for the opportunity to stand before you and share that with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Richard. We do not have any communications from citizens regarding pending agenda items. So we will now move to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion regarding the consent agenda?
Madam President, I make a motion that we move consent agenda item B and C.
Do I have a second? Second. Okay, the motion was made and seconded to approve the agenda item plus items B and C from the action item list. All in favor, would you please raise your right hand? Thank you, 7-0. And, okay, now we will move. Is there any discussion on any of those items? Did anybody have any questions? Okay. Now, we made the motion to move those two items, and we approved that. Now we need to approve the consent agenda as amended. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion was made by Cassandra, and
Second.
second was made by Jackie Colton. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you, 7-0. We will now move to the action agenda items. Item A, set date for tax rate hearing and setting, 2021-22 tax rate.
Well, once again, congratulations for making the top 5. I was talking to my wife about that, and we decided probably the only thing you guys aren't going to win is Male Vocalist of the Year.
I don't know.
So we're all very appreciative of you as a board, especially those of us that have worked with numerous boards that wouldn't have made the top 5 for sure. And on to the business. State law requires now that you set a date to set the tax rate and to have the tax rate hearing. That's what this item's doing. It's asking you to set the date for the September 20th board meeting. By law, we have to have the tax rate to the tax office by September 22nd. So that's about as late a date as we can. Might mention to you that our total tax rate for this past school year was 136.76. The one we're bringing forward to you to fund this budget is 131.96. So it's a drop of almost a nickel. And
Wow.
doesn't sound like much, but it's better than it going up.
Sure.
The property value for the average house went up more than that, but at least that helps offset what the taxpayer is going to have to pay. So, once again, that has a lot to do with the frugality and the budget management that you folks have shown over the years, and just a good thing we can do for the taxpayers. So, I would ask you to approve the date to set the tax rate and have the tax rate hearing for September 20th.
Are there any questions, comments? And do I have a motion? Carla Fahey.
I move the board sets September 20th, 2021 as the date for the tax rate hearing and for setting the tax rate for the 2022 school year.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries 7-0. Thank you,
you.
Dr. Bigby. We will now move to action item D, Education Leadership Development Partnership. Dr. Winifred Goodman.
Good evening, Madam President, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Smith. I am here to share with you, if you recall, last month I talked to you about a potential partnership as an information item with the University of North Texas at Dallas and Duncanville ISD. And so I'm here to bring this item to you this month to share more information and for an action item. Next slide, please. So why Duncanville ISD? This partnership is important to us as a district because it's meant to help continue to build our sustainable pipeline for leaders. We believe this could have a positive impact on our retention and recruitment efforts. And also the graduates will finish with a master's degree but have Duncanville ISD embedded in them. The courses will have Duncanville ISD tenets embedded in them, meaning that the participants will be grounded in our leadership theories right here in our district. For our staff, they have an opportunity to earn that master's degree, and this is a little different. This pipeline piece is a little different because we do have one in the district already, our ILA. However, with ILA, there's no master's degree involved. These are candidates that come to us that are interested in leadership, and so we do have our own program. But this will be another layer that will offer the opportunity for that master's degree along with principal certification. Further, it will benefit our community because we will get to retain our leadership candidates and keep them right here in Duncanville. Next slide. And so, as I shared with you last month, UNT Dallas has a proven curriculum. Right now, they have a 95% success rate on the new principal certification test. The program is student-centered. They're working with districts already, and with those districts have a 90% completion rate of the program, which means that students are able to finish the program and actually complete at about 90%. Of course, there will be some students, we've asked why students leave the program, and just for various reasons. The classes can be offered online, hybrid model, also face-to-face, and offered right here in Duncanville ISD. The program is affordable. This program will cost about $10,000 total, with a portion of that being paid by the district. Next slide, please. So when we look at a portion of that being paid by the district, I wanted to offer you some financial impact so that you could see how this will impact our district. And so we looked at several scenarios. One, which the Duncanville ISD administration recommends, is the 50% tuition rate. And so that would mean over 18 months, the length of the program, we would be looking at an impact of $100,000. However, if you wanted to go with 40% of tuition being paid for the student, that would be $80,000, and then also 35%. Wanted to be sure that you had options. That 35% would cost about $70,000 to the district, again, over that 18-month period. And we could use two funding sources are listed here, local funds, but also ESSER funds could be used for this as well.
Awesome.
Next slide. The other consideration is the payment structure. So we're looking at two different payment structures. One is a reimbursement model where the staff member pays up front, and then at the end of the courses, at the end of the semester, they are reimbursed 50% of that. And the other is a direct payment to the district, to the college. And so right now, the districts such as Dallas ISD that are using this program, they do a tuition reimbursement, and that's what UNT Dallas recommends that we do. Next slide. So commitments pending your approval. Number one is that we would start a cohort in spring 2022, our first cohort. Number two, that selected staff members would sign an agreement, and this agreement would mean that they would stay with us an additional 2 years after completion of the program. So that's a total of about a 4-year commitment, as I shared with you last month. Duncanville ISD would pay a portion of the tuition cost for Cohort 1 participants, and Duncanville ISD will determine the effectiveness prior to entering into a Cohort 2, which I shared with you last month is about, usually a cohort could happen every year. And so before engaging in Cohort 2, we would really look to see if this was meeting our needs. And then lastly, we would give reports to the board on a regular basis so that you understand the impact of the investment. Next slide. And so, as previously shared, this is the timeline for that January 2022 start of Cohort 1. We would start as early as approved to go ahead and start a campaign using UNT Dallas. They will help us launch an ad campaign really to focus on our staff members, give them information about the program, have an information item for them in September as well. And then in October, we talked about 20 participants. So in October, we would engage in interviews. So beyond the acceptance into UNT Dallas, we would do another layer of interview. One, so we could ensure that we're targeting the right people, so that we have people in the program that we really want to ensure that they're ready for us. And then beyond that, so that we can limit the number of people that are in the program, so that we can get to that number of 20. And then in November, an orientation, and lastly, we would start in January of 2022, we would start that first cohort. Next slide, please. I will take any questions you may have at this time.
Madam President, thank you so much for that. I'm an alumni of UNT, so I'm so excited about this program here. Do you anticipate the slots filling up?
We do. We're looking at, like I said, about 20. And so we do, just based on participation that we've had in other things. Again, this is different because being able to invest in our staff members at a rate of being able to help them pay for this master's program is huge.
Is huge,
Yeah, that's a
absolutely.
big
And this
deal.
is wonderful, a different pipeline to education and raising up our leaders. So that's awesome. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
Carla Fahey.
Are we making the choice tonight to decide on the 30 or 40 or 50%? So that's for us to decide tonight. With the 50%, will it be no more than 50%?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right.
Dr. Ivory.
Is a recommendation from the site principal, a requirement for the students to be accepted into the program?
Into UNT Dallas, into our first layer of UNT Dallas, but then we will go back and talk to the administrators and do an interview process of our own. So it will be an additional layer, yes, ma'am.
Okay, I think that's important too. That'll help sift out. And then my other thing for us to consider is just with COVID, having to pay your tuition up front could be a barrier. And I understand the recommendations, but for some parents, they've been laid off. I mean, their spouses may have been laid off. And so I hope, I'm just asking the board to take that into consideration before we do the reimbursement. I struggled with paying for my education, and even if I was given 50%, if I had to pay it first, I may not have been able to go.
So you're leaning towards option B? Is that-
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
If
Phil
I'm-
McNeely.
That was, what do y'all, if you recommend 50%, what payment plan do you recommend?
Can you pop
Option.
it back up?
Yes, can you pull that slide back up, please, back there in the control room? Thank you.
Yes, thank
So
you.
option A, for two reasons. One is that they will be eligible for financial aid, so they will go through the regular process of being eligible for financial aid if that's something that they need as well. And beyond that, it will give us an opportunity to make sure that people have met the requirements before we pay for it. And so the requirements include attendance as well as grades.
Great.
And so we have to have an agreement to be able to do that, because it's just like our students. We don't get those grades directly. We have to have that as part of our agreement. They have to agree to give that, and of course, they would get the reimbursement.
makes sense. Any other questions? Is everybody good? I hear a motion? Do I hear a motion to approve the Educational Leadership Development Partnership with UNTD covering 50% of the participants' tuition and what option?
Whatever they recommend,
Okay, are you making the motion
yes.
with option A?
I second.
And the second is made by Jackie Colton. Any other further discussion, comments? All those in favor of the Leadership Development Partnership with 50% and option A? Raise your right hand. Like bead. 5, 6. And opposed? The motion carries 6-1. We will now move to action item E, laptop purchase for collegiate scholars. The presenter is Dr. Sam Nix.
Good evening, Board, and although many people have said congratulations, I'd like to join in saying congratulations to you
Thank you.
this evening.
Thank you.
This evening, I'm bringing for your consideration of approval the purchase of laptops for our Collegiate Academy scholars, particularly our seniors attending Mountain View College. Our scholars have previously been issued Chromebooks in the past. However, this poses a challenge for some of our scholars, specifically our seniors, because of some of the classes that they take, and that don't really function well with the Chromebook software. So this delays submission of assignments and impacts the quality of those assignments. Laptops are needed for scholars to access Microsoft Windows Suite, used for some of the college assignments in multiple required courses such as BCIS, Business Computer Information Systems 1301 and 1302 that our seniors are taking. So another important fact to note is that we anticipated this need, and the allocated funds for this purchase in the budget has already been included in the approved budget. But if you approve this, it will just, there will not be any additional funds that will need to be added because they've already been included and approved. If approved, this will take about 6 to 8 weeks to order and get the computers to be processed and to be distributed to our scholars. And with Mountain View College starting on August the 25th, that poses somewhat of a challenge. But we have an amazing new collegiate principal who is sitting right here, and Ms. Simon. And we've already thought through and processed through a plan for our seniors that, if approved, what that would look like for them until the computers arrived. And that plan would include, because our scholars go to Mountain View and are full collegiate students, they have access to the computer labs there at Mountain View. They also have access to computer labs here at our Collegiate Academy. And Fridays are set aside for those study hall and study times so that we can be very vigilant in monitoring and supporting them through those processes until those computers arrive. So it would be my pleasure to answer any questions that you may have regarding this request for computers for our seniors. Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead, Carla.
Are there students at the high school not enrolled in the academy but taking dual courses specific to the ones that require a laptop? Do we need to provide those students a laptop if they don't have one? These would be only specific to those courses listed here. So will we need to be buying more for those dual credit students?
I want to make sure I understand the question. The
Okay.
question, so for students who are not in collegiate but taking
Not in
dual
the
credit,
academy, but are
Okay.
taking dual credits, are any of these courses specific to them? And do they have laptops, or do they have Chromebooks and need laptops?
well, that would be a great question. I don't know off the top of my head. We have
Okay.
Mr. McDonald here. I don't know if you know the answer to that, Mr. McDonald. But I think the challenge there would be that if a student is enrolled in dual credit at the high school,
Mm-hmm.
most of them have their own computers that they use for their college classes, not furnished by the high school.
Okay,
For collegiate, we do provide those,
Okay.
that technology for them.
Okay.
So that is something that we could figure out and get back to you. See how many students are enrolled in BCIS 1301 and 2 from dual credit from the high school.
I have a second question, please, sir. Are we using federal funds? There's a question on the application that says, will federal funds be used, yes or no? And it is not circled.
Dr. Bibby, I don't think that we're using federal funds, are we? It's in the general budget.
It's general budget? Oh, okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Okay, go ahead, Dr. Ivory.
One of the reasons we're doing the Collegiate Academy is because they take multiple courses at the college level. Some of the students that are in general population, they may take a course here or there.
That's correct.
But the reason we're doing it for collegiate is they take several college courses throughout 9 through 12. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have a motion to approve the purchase of 100 laptops for collegiate scholars at an estimated cost of $827 each?
So move.
Second. Okay, the motion was made by Cassandra Phillips and seconded by Jackie Colton. Are there any questions, more comments? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed? No, 7-0. Thank you.
I was gonna make a comment.
Okay, go
I was
ahead.
just gonna say that I'm highly in favor of giving them whatever tools they need to excel. So thank you all for bringing this forward, for looking out for them, and for bringing this forward to us.
Thank you, Ms. Colton. We will now move to action item F, Local Policy Update 116 and 117, FO Local and DEC Local. The presenter is Dr. Karen Halachka.
Thank you so much. Good evening, Madam President, trustees, and Dr. Smith, and congratulations on being named at one of the top 5 state honor boards. Tonight, I'm presenting the second reading of the recommended policy revisions and 2 TASB updates, along with additional local and TASB policy revisions. As I shared last month, Duncanville ISD works with the Texas Association of School Boards to prepare its policies, and we follow a defined process for ensuring our policies align to state law. TASB recommendations, as well as current practice and the board's intentions. All policies have been reviewed by our senior leadership, and you have been provided in your board packet a copy of the annotated policies. Last month, I shared the local policy updates 116 and 117. There's been no additional feedback received on these policies, therefore the TASB recommended changes discussed last month remain the recommendation. However, for DEC Local, I was contacted by TASB regarding some additional changes that are being recommended for this policy related to peace officers. This spring, the legislature enacted a new law that requires us to include language related to providing mental health leave and quarantine leave for peace officers. This language has been provided to you in a separate document this evening. Since this law is already in effect, TASB recommends that we expedite adoption of this policy, which is why it is on tonight's action agenda. Last month, we also shared one local policy recommended change by administration, which was the removal of the corporal punishment language, since it does not align with current practice and due to the legal liability placed upon personnel. Therefore, it is the recommendation of the administration that the board approve the changes as presented for local policy updates 116 and 117, as well as the recommended changes to DEC Local and FO Local. This concludes my presentation of the policy updates, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? Comments? Do I have a motion to approve as presented the recommended changes associated with local policy updates?
So
from
moved.
16 and 17. Very good. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, The motion was made very quickly by Janet Veracruz and seconded by Cassandra Phillips. Any comments? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much. Thank you. And now we will move to action item G, consider approval of the 21-22 Student Code of Conduct. The presenter again is Dr. Halachka.
Thank you again. I am pleased to recommend for your approval this evening our Student Code of Conduct for the 2021-2022 school year. In accordance with Board Policy FO Legal, the Board of Trustees is required to annually adopt the Code of Conduct. As a district, we utilize TASB Model Code of Conduct as a guiding framework to ensure our practices are aligned to legal requirements. The TASB model is revised every other year after a legislative session. Therefore, we have quite a few changes this year to the district's code of conduct as a result of the 2021 session, along with some additional local revisions. I apologize for the small font, but there were 5 key bills that impacted the code of conduct language, as you can see here. I've provided you with a summary of each on this slide, but I'm just going to highlight a couple of them for you. SB 248 expands the definition of e-cigarettes to include the liquid solution, which will help us in addressing students that are bringing the liquid pods on campus. As you're aware, vaping has become a problem among teens across the country, and we have seen this among our students as well. Although our tobacco referrals have not been high, we already have 5 referrals this year in the past 10 days, which of course validates the purpose in the legislature's clarification of this language. This year, we're looking to start several proactive initiatives to educate both students and families on the use of e-cigarettes. Our philosophy in Duncanville is to proactively address and limit poor choices by students through educating them on risk, teaching them appropriate behaviors, and equipping them with strategies to avoid social pressures. SB 530 is another bill I would like to highlight related to online harassment. Today, students, of course, communicate and interact through digital media continuously. With this increase in online communication through social media, there is also an increase in the use of these means for harassment. This bill makes it a criminal offense to harass someone through electronic communication repeatedly in a way that would cause distress or be considered abuse or torment. This is another area in which we as a district will continue to increase our education of students through the guidance curriculum to add more lessons on addressing cyberbullying. In addition to the legislative changes to the Code of Conduct, we've also made some local changes to align with the TASB Model Code of Conduct and to update to our current and best practices. The TASB model does not include a place for the districts to include their student dress code because in accordance with Board Policy FNCA Local, it should be further defined in the student handbook. However, as a district, we've not historically included it in the student handbook. Therefore, for this year, we are recommending that we pull our current dress code from the Code of Conduct, post it in a separate regulation on the district's website, and engage in a comprehensive review of the student dress code this year using a diverse stakeholder group. In our Code of Conduct, we've historically added a list of behavior infractions and recommended consequences as well. This is not part of the TASB Model Handbook and was not removed when the legislature enacted the requirement of considering mitigating factors such as self-defense, intent, disciplinary history, student status of homelessness or foster care, and disability when determining whether to suspend or expel a student. The chart that has been there in the past, that limits administrative flexibility and does not align with the requirement of using mitigating factors in disciplinary decisions.
Yes.
Therefore, we're recommending removal of that chart.
Great.
And then the third local change is the removal of what was titled the drug policy in the Code of Conduct. This is, again, not in the TASB model, and the language was repetitive of what was already stated under the different offense sections eligible for alternative placement and expulsion. It also stated specific consequences for drug-related offenses, which does not align with state law regarding the consideration of mitigating factors, as we've previously discussed. Therefore, it's important to note that the removal of these three sections does not mean in any way that we cannot administer consequences for dress code violations, the infractions listed in the chart, or the drug offenses. We will continue to have high expectations for student behavior. We are just simply cleaning up the code of conduct to better align with state law and your local policy. So with that, I appreciate the opportunity to share with you this evening, and it is the recommendation of administration that the board approve the student code of conduct for the 21-22 school year as presented, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Yes, go right ahead.
How does the district define repeated with the bullying online on the SB 530? How are we defining repeated electronic communication? Is that just more than once?
It would definitely be more than once, but it would be that we have put some factors into place to try to initially stop that behavior, and it continues. And so it's happened more than once. We work to stop it, and that behavior continues. I can think of a scenario we had that we worked through in the spring of last year with a student, and as a result of cyberbullying, and it was something very pervasive, as in, like you might hear with sexual harassment, or it's when it's pervasive and it's over and over again.
Yes, Carla?
Just curious, at the high school, do we still have a Crime Stoppers project in effect? And how is that funded, if we still have it?
I'm going to have to look to
Mr. McDonald is
our
back
chief
there.
of police on a Crime Stoppers program.
Okay.
That may not be something I'm familiar with.
It was a reward system for students who would turn in somebody maybe with a gun, and they would get, it was an anonymous, and you'd get a cash reward. And I'm just curious to see if it's still in effect.
Good evening, Madam President, Board, and Dr. Smith. We are currently still working with the North Texas Crime Stoppers Group in order to get that set up. We went through a training this summer dealing with the software, so that's just something that we're still dealing with, and hopefully within the next month or so, we should be able to get that program back up and running.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, do I have a motion to approve the student code of conduct for the 21-22 school year as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made by Carla Fahey and seconded by Dr. Ivory. Are there, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. No opposed, motion carries 7-0. We'll now move to action item H, consider approval of the proximity learning agreement as a distance learning technology to meet the instructional needs of students. The presenter is Dr. Kathleen Brown.
Almost, not yet. Thank you. Good evening, Madam President, Dr. Smith, Board of Trustees, and congratulations to you again. This evening, I am bringing before you for consideration the Proximity Learning Agreement. As you all know, K-12 schools across the U.S. are facing shortages on teachers. And while schools are struggling to fill vacancies, we've done that for years, the shortage has been unlike anything we've seen. And that's been due to COVID-19. It is projected in a recent study that 200,000 teachers will be short, that many in the U.S., in the next 3 to 5 years. That's almost double the number from 2018. So when schools are unable to find qualified teachers, providing our students with equitable education is more challenging, and already with the learning loss, their learning becomes more threatened. The shortage is widespread in the U.S. 95% of the states and territories have reported a shortage this year alone. And that's in various areas, but mostly in math, computer science, any upper science classes, and college-level classes as well. Additionally, not only are fewer students becoming teachers, 44% of new teachers are still leaving the field within the first 5 years.
Wow.
For districts who have difficulty hiring teachers due to location, and sometimes that location can be a rural area, and then other times it's like us, where you're close to so many things and there are so many options, this year has proven to be a challenge. In the past decade, school districts are increasingly seeking outside aid to combat their teaching shortages, and for us, in the past, that has been Proximity Learning. Proximity Learning is an online education company, and that they partner with school districts to fill their needs for high-quality certified teachers that are trained in the virtual classroom. And one of the benefits for us as a district is that all of our students experienced that at some point on last year. In previous years, when we've had proximity learning as an option, for some of our students, it was brand new. So even when COVID-19 disrupted education at the end of the 1920 school year, students who were familiar with proximity learning classes were able to continue that online learning seamlessly. So with synchronous live instruction, teachers can connect with students face-to-face virtually, and Proximity does all of the scheduling and those pieces so that the teacher can focus solely on their passion for teaching students. So as we know, technology can be very powerful in combating the teacher shortage and connecting our learners with expert teachers that they deserve no matter where they are. So today, Proximity Learning is conducting classes in over 30 topic areas, and so that has grown over the years from what they were offering several years ago. So every day, they are striving to pursue that equity that we're looking for our students. And so the way it works in Duncanville is that proximity learning teachers are paired with our own paraprofessionals, which we call digital facilitators here in the district. And the digital facilitator has that presence in the classroom itself, and these facilitators go through an extensive training with proximity learning so that they are ready to support the teacher as well as the student the best that they can. Our high school has done an exceptional job this year in filling vacancies, and you've seen our vacancy list go down and down and down, and so we're really in a great spot as a district. And so what we're bringing before you this evening, we only have 7 teacher vacancies currently at the high school, which is amazing. However, with COVID-19, there is the possibility that individuals may leave for various reasons, and we want to be proactive and ready. And for that reason, we are bringing the agreement before you to have up to 10 throughout the year proximity learning classrooms in the district. One of the things that's different about our agreement, and it's due to our partnership that we've had over the years with proximity learning, is that when districts join proximity learning, they make a commitment for the year. But as a valued partner with proximity learning, that is different for Duncanville ISD. If we are to find a certified teacher, that particular class would no longer be offered for proximity, and that's unique for Duncanville. So I would be happy to answer any questions you have at this time.
I think we have no questions. Do I have a motion to approve the agreement to purchase proximity learning services as a distance learning technology during teacher shortages for up to 10 classes for Duncanville ISD?
So moved.
Okay, so we have Cassandra and Dr. Ivory made the second, did the motion. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. And motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much. We will now move to action item I, submitting an endorsement for TASB Board of Directors, Region 10, Position A. The presenter is Dr. Smith.
All right, thank you, Madam President. Before you, you have a number of individuals who have submitted their biographical sketch, and so I believe that all of you have had an opportunity to read through the biographical sketch, and so now it's just a matter of you all making a decision on who you want to submit and represent.
Madam,
Task
sorry,
Board.
are you done?
Go ahead, go
Okay.
ahead.
Madam President, I would like to make a motion that the Duncanville ISD Board of Trustees endorse Ty G. Jones as the TASB Board of Directors, Region 10, Position A candidate.
Thank
So
you.
moved. Or second.
Okay, Dr. Ivory. The motion was made by Cassandra Phillips and seconded by Dr. Ivory. All those in favor of Ty G. Jones, please raise your right hand. And motion carries 7-0. We will move to the information discussion agenda item A, COVID-19 protocol update. The presenter is Dr. Mark Smith.
All right, thank you, Madam President. Just want to bring your attention, you do have a copy of the presentation there before you. It's just kind of sitting at the dais. So if you could pull that in front of you, you can follow along. As the first presenter comes on up, just want to remind the board of just all the different things that we are doing here to try to mitigate the spread of COVID-19, continue to prioritize health and safety and being transparent with our numbers so that our community and our parents are informed. And so tonight what we want to do is provide you a deeper look into what our numbers look like, a deeper look into the protocols that we have in place to keep our buildings and facilities safe, as well as the communication of being transparent with our families and our communities when we get a positive case or an exposure. And so I'm going to ask Dr. Halaska to go ahead and lead us in the presentation.
Okay. Thank you. And good evening again, Madam President, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Smith. We'll go on to the next slide, please. As you can see from this slide here, there have been several requirements that have been discussed as it relates to COVID-19 over the past few weeks. We, of course, as a district have operated under the governor requirements in GA 36 regarding school systems and how they are not able to require students or staff to wear a mask. And we've had lots of discussion about that already. We've also had some state requirements from the Texas Education Agency that has some new allowances related to some remote conferencing for students on a limited basis, as well as stating that schools are not required to contact trace, as well as giving parents an option of keeping students at home or sending them to school if they are in close contact. And then, of course, we've had some area school district and county actions that have also impacted our decision-making here in the district, including those mandates that have been made, of course, by Dallas and Fort Worth ISD as our largest districts in the area, as well as the Judge Jenkins mandate. I'm giving you an overview of these three sections of requirements because as we go through tonight's presentation, you will see how each of them have impacted decisions that we've had to make as a district in regards to COVID-19. So we'll move on to the next slide. We're going to go ahead and start with enrollment. And as Dr. Smith spoke about earlier, I'm very excited to celebrate with you our current enrollment numbers. As of today, we have 11,651 students enrolled, which exceeds our projected enrollment by 125 students.
Wow.
It has been very apparent that parents were ready to send their children back to school and have put faith and trust in Duncanville ISD to keep their students safe. Although a majority of campuses have exceeded their projected enrollment, the high school specifically is 150 students over their projection. The addition of the 3-year-old pre-K program has also helped our enrollment numbers at the elementary level. Next slide. As we presented in June, our goal continues to be to keep our students and staff safe amid the ever-changing pandemic. Our district has done an excellent job maintaining a low percentage of staff and student COVID cases due to the practices that have been implemented related to the protective equipment and sanitation of our buildings. Although we are unable to require a mask, we are still strongly recommending face coverings at all of our facilities. We are also continuing with routine temperature checks and working to maintain a social distance of at least 3 feet. We prefer 6 when we can. And we always have students utilize their face or desk shields as a precautionary measure when able. Schools are allowed to have events and assemblies this year, but again, we ask them to work to social distance their students. We are continuing to provide hand sanitizer throughout every facility and on all of our buses, and are engaging in disinfecting protocols through our e-misting. We know by our number of cases that COVID is still very much active, and we have remained vigilant in protecting our staff and students through ongoing monitoring, quarantining, and contact tracing. We do not require a daily screener, but when students are symptomatic, our campus teams will determine when a student should be quarantined. Of course, by having a nurse on every campus, student symptoms can be consistently monitored, which has, of course, helped as well. Symptomatic students that are not vaccinated will be required to quarantine a minimum of 7 days and potentially 10 days unless they have been symptom or fever-free for 24 hours and can provide a negative test result or a doctor's diagnosis of another illness. If a student or staff member does test positive, they are required to submit a notification and quarantine a minimum of 10 school days. The campuses are also continuing to engage in some contact tracing at this time. Even though it's not required by Texas Education Agency, we are still continuing to do some contact tracing to determine if anyone could have been exposed. Of course, we want to make sure that staff and parents remain informed if students are exposed or if there is a positive case on campus. Therefore, we continue to send email notifications when this occurs. We're also continuing to do rapid COVID testing, as Dr. Smith alluded to earlier, for our staff members by appointment. Although we're continuing to be vigilant in our safety protocols, we are still seeing an increase in our student cases this year when compared to prior year. When a student is positive, we first determine if they've been on campus. If so, then we contact trace to make sure that the student is isolated. If they are in contact with any other students, we also make sure those students are isolated. We then notify the parents, we quarantine the students, and then, of course, we sanitize any locations that they've been in the building or on transportation. Students are able to return again following 10 days of quarantine. They can return after 5 days if they are tested after that 5th day and they get a negative COVID test. So with that, I'll now turn it over to Ms. Kathleen Brown to share our staff COVID numbers.
Okay, good evening. As with student cases, we are seeing an increase in positive cases in staff members. These cases are more prevalent in staff members who have not been vaccinated. However, we have seen several cases in staff who have been vaccinated as well. The numbers before you show the current status of COVID cases in staff for the current school year. This year, we have seen 29 confirmed cases of COVID-19 in staff. At the time of this presentation was finalized, there were 14 active cases in staff, and on today, we have an additional case, so we are now at 15. I want to speak to you a little about the personal leave, because that has been a point that has been a point of discussion for staff here recently. The Families First Coronavirus Response Act was put in place at the start of the pandemic. It required employers to grant paid leave to staff who tested positive or were required to quarantine due to COVID-19 exposure or close contact. This act expired December 31st, 2020. However, you graciously allowed us to continue to offer district-paid sick leave for our staff until June 30th of 2021 for COVID-related absences. With the opportunity to become vaccinated and the previous slow in the spread of COVID cases, district-paid sick leave is no longer available to staff. One major difference is that on last year, teachers and other staff were able to work from home as many students were still virtual and able to be supported. This year, all students are back in person, so there is no option to work from home at this time. Employees are able to use any available leave they have if they test positive or need to quarantine, as with any other illness. Family medical leave is also available to staff who qualify and are out for an extended period of time. FML provides, and family medical leave, it provides job protection to staff, but does not give any additional leave time. The sick leave bank is another option for staff who run out of days due to illness or hospitalization for any reason, including COVID-19. If a staff member is a part of the sick leave bank, if all of their leave is exhausted, they are able to request leave from the sick leave bank for consideration. Although there have been instances where staff members have chosen not to report due to the requirement to use their days, it is our hope that staff members continue to follow the safety protocols and reporting requirements related to COVID-19 in the best interests of all students and staff. Dr. Halachka.
Bring something to,
Thank you, Ms. Brown. So as Dr. Smith shared with you earlier, there has been some back and forth when it comes to the mask mandates at the local and state levels. However, as you can see from our survey, a majority of both staff and parents support the wearing of masks for students and staff. As a preventative measure, wearing masks is a way to ensure our staff and students remain safe, which is again why we're encouraging everyone to wear their face coverings. I'll now turn it back over to Dr. Smith to further discuss the mask requirements and to consider any other safety incentives for staff. Next slide.
Thank you, Dr. Lotchka. Board, we had some discussions on the different options that are out there in certain districts. There is one option we've seen in Dallas ISD that's providing $500 for staff members who get a vaccination. And so what I want you to know is that as the days and weeks go by, as we continue to monitor the data, that may be something that we will consider, and that may be something that we'll have do some deeper research on and bring back to the board as an item for us to discuss, so that I can get a sense of where your level of comfort is as it relates to that approach. Not ready to go there yet, but just want to certainly put that on your radar because we have to be prepared to pivot in a number of different ways over the next couple of weeks because we just simply don't know what's going to happen. And if we follow the feedback that we're getting from the health experts, the numbers are expected to increase exponentially in September. And so we want to be prepared here in Duncanville if things continue to get worse. And so that is one option that the team and I will be researching and studying, and then we'll be continuously providing information for you in the event that that's something that we need to put into action in place here in Duncanville. We also will continue to provide an opportunity for our staff members to get a vaccination here on site. We are really close to having some firm dates. And so once we have those dates, we will provide that information to you so that we can give you what those numbers are. I'm really confident in our team and the work that we're doing to try to stay 2-3 steps ahead. We are following the court scenarios just as much as you are, and so we'll continue to make sure that the health and safety of all of our staff is our number one priority. In the interim, enacting all the things that we've just talked about while the court system works its way through this whole process. So just want to reassure you of that and let you know that we'll be keeping you up to date.
Yes.
So with that, that concludes our presentation this evening of our COVID-19 safety protocols, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Yes, go ahead, Jackie Colton.
I would be interested in hearing about opportunities we've explored for providing sick leave. You know, if it would be possible or.
So for our staff members, the Family First Coronavirus Response Act, of course, expired. However, locally, we can look at multiple options. Last year, we had implemented what we call district-paid sick leave, and that allowed staff members who were positive for COVID-19 or were quarantined by the district to have access to up to 10 days of paid leave. That was prior to the vaccine being offered and those things. And so I've tried to explain to staff as it relates to like the flu vaccine. You don't have to get it, and it's okay if you don't. However, if you got the flu, your doctor would recommend that you stay home from work, may take you off for 5 to 7 days, maybe 10, and you would have to enter that time, and it would be, time that you have available to you. The benefit in our district is that we do have a sick leave bank. It was prior to COVID that we had a sick leave bank, and so we hadn't had to use it for that due to the district-paid sick leave. But during the benefits enrollment period, individuals had the opportunity to join the sick leave bank. So in the event that they exhausted all of their leave, they can definitely ask for leave from the sick leave bank. The difference, other piece that I want us to think through and consider is on last year it was different. Because our teachers, we didn't always have to have a substitute teacher because we have permanent subs, because we had students at home, and so a teacher could still interact virtually and still be working. It is much different this year, so that if we went back to something like that, it would be like we were paying twice. So we'd be paying the teacher who is here and for district paid sick leave, and we would also have a substitute that needs to be here in person since all of our students are back.
I want to clarify just one thing, because on the printed copy and as well as the display, the district-paid sick leave did go through June of this year, right?
Of this year. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am, it did.
What are the requirements for participating in the sick leave bank?
And when you first enroll in the sick leave bank, you're required to give 2 local days up front, and then the bank does not require that you give days after that unless we're in a year where we're low, and then that is communicated that everyone who's a member is given 1 day up front. That is the only requirement, is the 2 days up front when you join.
And what is the participation rate in that?
I don't have the exact number, Dr. Bigby, do you know? It's in our benefits and finance area. So, but we can definitely get that. I know it has increased over the last couple of years. COVID definitely had an impact. For a staff member, sometimes it's the hard of, I'm giving up 2 days up front, and I don't want to do that until I need them. So we do get employees who ask to join throughout the year, but the only time you are able to join is through the benefits enrollment period.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Phil, did you have a?
Yeah, so we're going to study pay them to get the shot, the vaccination?
There are some districts who are doing that.
Are we actively looking at that?
Yes, we are looking at that.
Are you going to go back and pay the ones that got it before?
That is an option. That's what districts that are doing it have done. They've gone back to pay those who have got it, and what I've seen so far is they've given people an opportunity for a certain amount of time to get it to be included in that payment.
Yes, Carla.
Do teachers bank their own personal days and then when they retire get a check, or has that been?
No, they're not paid for days. We do have people who don't use a lot of their days, and then we have those who use all of them by October 31st.
Well,
Yes.
I've known teachers who counted on those days, and they retired, were planning to retire, and they would pretty much abandon their classes. You know, they'd start off with a Friday or a Monday, and I actually pointed my finger at them, and I said, "You're doing something." Not nice word, to your students, because there's nothing like that real teacher there. So they can no longer.
No.
Okay.
No. And our principals do a great job of
Okay.
watching that and monitoring that and making sure they communicate if that's
Okay.
an issue. Absolutely.
Okay, that's good.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, there's no more questions. Thank you. Thank you for the report. I also want to thank you for contributing to this policy. It's very good. I can see each one of your input into it, and I thank you because it really is a good procedure that we follow. It really is, and I thank you for your time on that. And we'll now go to communications from citizens, and there are none. So there being no further business, the meeting is adjourned.